I went to the root man, fell way down on my knees. Went to see that root man, fell way down on my knees. I said, Mr. Root Man, please have mercy on me. Here's what he told me. I got High John the Conqueror, a Little John the Chew. I ain't got nothing to take the jinx off of you. You should have been long gone. Should have been long gone. Should have been running like a turkey through the corn. Run on, boy. We might do a little music today. Maybe I'll introduce some of my band that I brought with me. And let's see, I have a vegetarian member of my band, or maybe a vegetable member of my band. This is a bean from a tropical tree. This is, I guess the botanists call it Delanex regia. The Miami people call it the poinciana tree. If you're from Puerto Rico, they consider it sort of like their national tree, and it's called the flamboyant because it's a legume like a mimosa, but it has big, beautiful, bright red blossoms. If you're down in the Eastern Caribbean or the English-speaking Caribbean, they call it the shak bean, man, because when it has loose beans in it, so when you shake it, it gives you a little.
In Nicaragua, they call that the malinche.
In where?
Nicaragua.
Nicaragua, malinche. Malinche, and the Mexicans call it something else. It's amazing to see, and I think it's not native to. I think it might be native to India, but it's sort of pan-tropical now with the diaspora. So maybe we'll try to get a little rhythm section here. All right. And then this. It's fun. It's fun. A friend of mine was out in the desert, not too far from here. He's in New Mexico, and he found where a cow had died. And the coyotes and the buzzards that come and pick the bones clean. There's nothing left of this pile of bones and this old twisted up piece of hide. And so he took that piece of hide and he took it over to a creek and softened it up. And then he found a hollow cottonwood log. These are all cottonwoods, they're real indicators for the wet areas in the desert. And he found an old hollow cottonwood log and he cleaned it out. And he hollowed it out. And then he went to the hardware store and he bought turnbuckles like you'd put on an old-time screen door. And then he took some nylon twine and cranked that thing tight and made a little drum. You can still see it. And so now I got a two-part rhythm section, right? And it's all organic and biodegradable except for the turnbuckles, right? So let's see here. Let's see. I thought it'd be fun. I got kind of a blues song instead of an ethnobotanical song about searching for natural cures and searching for the right healer and the right person to solve our problems. And the chorus goes something like this. You should have been long gone, long gone. Should have been long gone, long gone. And then we all together we go. Should have been running like a turkey through the corn. Well, you should have been long gone. Should have been long gone. You should have been running like a turkey through the corn. We got some latecomers. We'll just sing one more chorus for them, get ourselves all warmed up. Should have been long gone. Should have been long gone. Should have been running like a turkey through the corn. Well, I woke up this morning, blues all around my bed. Well, I woke up this morning, blues all around my bed. You probably felt like that, as a little St. John's wort tincture, maybe. I don't know. You should have. It's hard to interrupt these things, get back where I'm supposed to be. Let's see. Well, I woke up this morning, blues all around my bed. Well, I woke up this morning, blues all around my bed. Now listen to this symptomology. I went to eat my breakfast. There were snakes crawling through my bread. Well, that's some pretty serious symptoms. Now, what do you do about that? What kind of a healer do you find for deal with that kind of thing? Went to the gypsy to get my fortune told. Went to see the gypsy woman to get my fortune told. She looked at me, she said, doggone your hard luck soul. Should have been gone in trouble, boy. Should have been long gone. Should have been long gone. Should have been run like a turkey through the corn. Well, I went to the root man. Now we're getting ethnobotanical. I went to the root man, fell way down on my knees. Went to see that root man, fell way down on my knees. I said, Mr. Root Man, please have mercy on me. Here's what he told me. Got a High John the Conqueror, Little John the Chew. I ain't got nothing, take the jinx off of you. Should have been long gone. Should have been long gone. You should have been running like a turkey through the corn. Well, you should have been long gone. Should have been long gone. Should have been running like a turkey through the corn. All right. So that song may be called the Root Blues, and it's an old blues song. That's a traditional tune. And then let me give you another one here. And this has a great little chorus. It's just sort of fun. Not even solo call and response. It goes like this. I got the left hind leg of a rabbit. Things are coming my way. Yeah, all I got to do is just reach out and grab it. Things are coming my way. You want to try that? I got the left hind leg of a rabbit. Things are coming my way. All I got to do is just reach out and grab it. Things are coming my way. Oh me, oh my, I'm so happy all the time. I ain't got nothing for to trouble my mind. Things are coming my way. I got the left hind leg of a rabbit. Things are coming my way. All I got to do is just reach out and grab it. Things are coming my way. Oh me, oh my. Oh me, oh my. I'm so happy all the time. Ain't got nothing for to trouble my mind. Things are coming my way. I got the left hind leg of a rabbit. Things are coming my way. All I got to do is just reach out and grab it. Things are coming my way. Oh me, how good I feel. I come possession of an automobile. I can eat chicken and I don't have to steal. Things are coming my way. I got the left hind leg of a rabbit. Things are coming my way. All I got to do is just reach out and grab it. Things are coming my way. Oh me, oh my. I'm so happy all the time. Ain't got nothing for to trouble my mind. Things are coming my way. Things are coming my, things are coming my, things are coming my way. All right. I learned that song from Bessie Jones. Bessie Jones, I met for many years from the early 70s up into the 80s. I sort of made my living as an itinerant herbalist, and the way I actually brought in cash was I would go to traditional music festivals. And I would set up along with all the craft booths with traditional crafts, I would set up a booth of herbs, teas, and old-time remedies. And what was so nice, in so many ways, I call that my classical education, because here was all these people that were brought there for their embodiment of tradition. There were, old banjo players, there were ballad singers, there were people from different parts of the world. They would come in and they would do different kinds of music. And of course, anyone who has a broad contact with the natural, with their traditional roots has a deep contact with tradition and with herbs and things like that. So by the time I was through with all my little display of herbs and teas and all like that, by the time the festival was over, anyone who had anything to say about herbs, I heard from them. And so it was really interesting because, I'd talk to old mountain folks and I'd learn about ginseng hunting and all kinds of things like that. And I remember one time that Bessie Jones was invited to come to a lot of these festivals. And she would come, she was from South Georgia, and she lived on one of the Georgia Sea Islands. And the Georgia Sea Islands are unique because many of the people who were brought over as slaves either escaped there or ended up there. And because it was so isolated from the main culture, they kind of developed their own, they kind of have remnants of the old African dialects. And they speak a dialect that's pretty much, to us who speak mainstream English, pretty much unintelligible, and it's called Gullah. And they were also did. And Bessie was a member of a church, as most people were or are in that area, and she would bring herself and any members of her church or her family who wanted to come to these festivals, and all she brought as far as musical instrument was a tambourine. And she would come and she'd get up on that stage with whatever members of her congregation were with her, and she would just knock the whole place flat with the power of her a cappella singing of these old spirituals and gospel songs. And she was amazing to hear. And I can remember there's this busy little festival grounds, and all of a sudden I hear just sort of this booming voice out of the back going, "Now here's something I like. Here's something I like." And here comes Bessie Jones, a little short woman, just solid as could be. She comes walking up to my booth. "Yes, sir, I gets all my medicine out the woods and the fields. Yes, sir, I ain't had no doctor medicine since 1923. Yes, sir, and I ain't got no backache, and my boy, oh yeah, I ain't got no problem. Oh, I gets all my medicine." Well, Miss Jones, what herbs do you use? Well, let's see now that stinging nettle. Now we got a stinging nettle, but we don't use the leaves. It's got a big old root on it. I realized she was talking about a completely different plant that she's calling stinging nettle. She's calling it Snidnosculus stimulosus. It's a member of the euphorbia family that grows in the deep south, and it actually has a thick root that actually is edible. And she was talking about that. And then she went down, what this? And we went and talked about each of these herbs, and she wanted to know about every one, and she had things to say about it. And I realized she was a rich body of knowledge, And I said, well, Bessie, sometimes I come traveling down in the South, and I wonder if I come by and ask you about herbs sometime. And she said, well, that'd be all right, and she was real friendly, and I gave her some different herbs that I had, and it was sort of funny, because people were ready to buy their herb teas and things like that, and they're kind of standing there, and I'm just, anything she wants to say, I'm ignoring any kind. I mean, this is what I was here for. This was the main event. They were trying to get back to the main event. This was the main event for me, and so I found myself down in South Georgia, and I definitely wanted to make a point of seeing her. And I was down in the Okefenokee swamp, and I was canoeing, and I used to do these long pilgrimages and just go out and just look at different kinds of plants and just try to do my botanizing. And so I called her up when I got near, and I said, well, I wonder if I could come over tomorrow. No, I'll be here if nothing don't happen. And and it's just the conditionality, acknowledging the conditionality of life. It just, there you go. And so in interviewing any traditional elder, there's two things that I think are important. One is, sometimes I used to think that telling them that about all these plants would be a way of sort of making them understand that you and them are in the same boat. But of course, a lot of traditional people, traditionally humble, they just let you tell them about the plants. So it's much better to be that empty vessel, that and just tell me what's these plants. So and I realized, and the other thing is, people, what herbs do you use? Well, you'll think of a few herbs, and what others? And you can't think of them. It's like you hang around with some of these traditional musicians that know 200 or 300 tunes each. Well, play one. I can't think of one. and so before I went to see her, I just picked every bush I could find, every little bush, every plant. I just got a whole collection and brought them in a big shopping bag. And I went and I went and found her house. She lived on St. Simon's Island. St. Simon's Island is now like a big resort community with huge condominiums all around. And at that time it was too. And there's this little section in the back of the island, a black section. And little frame houses where people have been living for years, and all this sort of stuff just built up around them. And so it was so amazing. So I went in and talked to her, and I started pulling out these different potted plants. We were out on the edge of her garden. She had a little collard greens patch out in the back of her garden, and And there was in the edge of almost every little patch of field, there's a solanum. If you're from the east, it's Solanum caroliniense. If you're from the west out here, the most common one I think is Iliagnifolia, and it's a little solanum, little tomato family plant. Usually has little yellow tomatoes on it. I think have most of you seen that? Do you know what I'm talking about? These little tomatoes on it, and that's something you'd see around. And I can remember asking her, "Well, what's this, Bessie? You know, just start, get her started. You know, what's this?" She said, "Oh, that's tread softly." And what's that? Tread softly. And she, in a thick accent, I couldn't quite understand. She was saying, tread softly, because it has all these little thorns on it. And if you're running around barefoot, you know you tread softly when you get around, tread softly. And I'd use that for anything? And she said, well, use it for babies when they're teething. And I thought, Well, I didn't know much about babies. I didn't know much about plants in those days. Well, I knew that it's a solanum family, and it's something you don't really mess with. I mean, you know, potatoes, tomatoes, eggplants, peppers, they're all in the solanum family, but also there's other solanums like daturas and all kinds of really powerfully poisonous plants that are in that same family. And that just stuck in the back of my head. So we'll get back to Bessie in a minute, but let's just jump ahead 10 more years. I was at a primitive skills gathering. And there were people who were teaching how to make bows and arrows, and how to tan hides, and how to knap flint, and there was some Cherokee Indians there that were teaching how to make traditional blowguns, and one of them was the elder Walker Calhoun. Well, you know, here we had this no jive Native American elder, and there we are at the edge of a field. Oh, look, hey Walker, what's this plant? He goes, oh, that's bullweed. Do you use that for anything? Well, they use it for the babies when they slobber. Well, I know a little more about babies then. And I knew that when babies drool a lot, it's when they're teething. I thought, whoa, African American and Native American saying the same use for the same plant. So I said, Walker, what do they do? They put it in a little string around their neck. And you take the root and you put it around their neck. I said, do they chew on it? No, you make it tight. You know, it might be poison, he says. Thank goodness he was traveling with some women. You know, I went and talked to Cherokee women. So what about this? And then I talked to, actually it was a Creek Indian also from the southeast. And she says, well, she had talked to a lot of the elders, and they talked about, that they would take it and they would make a string, make a necklace, but they make it tight enough so that the baby couldn't chew on it. And they put a string of these little roots on there. And she said, and the old lady that called it, she called it thread sass. I'm thinking, thread sass. I said, like sassafras, sass, thread sass. That's what it sounded like to me, she said. And then I ran into another old southern white guy, and he called it tread saft. And the old-timey Appalachian way of saying soft would be saft. And I realized they have the same name as Bessie did. You know, white folks in the northern part of the South. And so tread soft, tread saft, depending on how you say it. So what's the deal? So now you got this solanum family. It's got all kinds of alkaloids in it. It's got scopolamine in it. It's got some of them's got atropines in them. Some of them's got solanine in them. And so one of the symptoms of solanine poisoning is dryness of the mouth. Okay, now, if you're seasick, in the old days, you'd get Dramamine pills, and it would kind of help. Now they don't use Dramamine. They use scopolamine. And you don't take it internally. It's on a little patch. It's called a scope patch. And you put it on your temple. And the medication is transmitted transdermally. So now, could it be that the baby's teething, drools a lot, wearing these little solanum roots around their neck, drools onto the root, moistens the root, a tiny bit of some kind of either narcotic or pain-killing alkaloid is transmitted transdermally, or maybe just plain dryness of the mouth. So I started pulling more herbs. So for you latecomers, I was speaking about Bessie Jones, an old African-American woman from the Georgia Sea Islands, and visiting her. And so I'm pulling these plants out. I pulled the wax myrtle out, Myrica cerifera. And oh yeah, now when I was a girl, I was working on a plantation, and the owner, he had ulcers so bad. And she said, and I went and got him low bush myrtle, she called it, low bush myrtle, and or high bush myrtle, that's the high one. And I made him a tea of that, and that cured him up. Oh, that was so good for him. And she said, now another thing we use around here is oyster shell tonic. I said, oyster shell tonic? She says, yeah, it's good for your bones. She says, I take oyster shell tonic lots of times. I take it almost every day. And she says, I said, how do you make it? She says, well, you get oyster shells. I said, you just find oyster shells on the beach? She said, well, no, it's better to get fresh oyster shells. She says, now downtown there, she says, there's one of them raw bars, where they serve oysters. People, they open oysters and people eats the oysters. She says, I gets the shells. I'm like, whoa, I gets the shells. I go, she said, and you take them shells and you put them in the back of the wood stove and you start a fire in there. And you get them burning. You hear them popping and cracking. When they stop popping and cracking, you scoop them all out of there and you put them in a sack and then you pound it with a hammer till it's all powdered. And then you put it in water. And then you put that in the back of the fridge there. And you just keep it in there. And every day you take a cup of that. And then you can fill it up. You can keep doing that for a long time. Take a cup of that. I thought, boy, there you go, a calcium tonic. What's it taste like, Bessie? It tastes like eggshell tonic. So, okay, if you were living inland, you didn't have access to oyster shells, you'd use eggshells. Calcium. Whoa. And let's see, what else did I pulled out? So then I pulled out, there's a little sensitive plant that grows in the South. Sort of like the sensitive mimosa, the one that you touch it and it folds up. Well, in the South, there's one that kind of grows wild. And I pulled that out of there. It's a little briary thing. She says, oh, that be shame briar. Be shame, because it's sort of a tradition among southern kids. You go up to this plant and you go, you be shame, and it just folds right up. So it's called be shame briar. And she said, I said, well, what's that for? And then I recorded this conversation and I transcribed it into my book here, and I'm just going to read it to you because it's just so amazing. Because you can hear me, this wide-eyed white guy, coming talking to this great old elder, and she said the beach shame brine. She said her mother used to use it. She put it in the water for chickens when chickens were ailing, and it purified the water and served as a medicine. And people use it too. She says, "What's it good for in people?" I asked. "It's not for taking, but it's good to tote." To tote. To tote? She laughed. Well, you wouldn't hardly need it. You don't want to make nobody coward now, do you? Coward? Makes them into a coward? She said, well, I say coward because they're submissive. You can touch them and tell them what to do, and they do what you want them to do. I said, kind of like hexing somebody? She said, yeah, I call it ugly root. It ain't ugly, but people use it in an ugly way? Yeah, that's right. She said, everything out there in the woods, anything anywhere else is just like a table set. Everything out there to eat, but some of it will hurt you and some of it won't. You know that now. Ladies take beet shame root and they tote it in their pocketbook. In certain time and places, they chew it. They chew pieces of it. Now it'll make the other person submissive? Oh, yeah, they had words they used with it, and they chew it like they talking to you, like I'm talking to you right now. And they could go a long way with that thing, and they could do a heap of conquering with it. It may not be beet shame they're using. It might be something else. I don't know, but I know conquering when I see it. And somebody else come along after a while with something to conquer the conqueror. And you know that? You know that, don't you? I don't care how bad or what it is. Somebody else come along with something else a little bit higher, a little bit stronger. That's all there is to it. So you just don't kind of play with it. That's right, no kind of junk like that, because I don't like it. A lot of times I watch people when they're chewing, and they might not be chewing gum. she chuckled, And there began my education on root work. And she went on to tell me about other roots called High John the Conqueror root and Low John the Conqueror root, the devil's shoestring. And she told me about how people would use these roots, and it opened my eyes to a whole world that I didn't even know about. And here, I'd written a book. title Roots. It got reissued as Wild Roots. So, I read a book on roots. I never even knew this was even going on. It's going on right under my nose, but being a white guy in the mainstream culture, I didn't know anything about this, And then I was traveling in the South, and I was visiting some friends of mine in South Carolina, and they pulled a book out of their library. And it was a book by J.E. McTeer. It was called 20 Years as a Low Country Witch Doctor, or 50 Years as a Low Country Witch Doctor. And I opened this book, and I read this book, and there was an amazing story. Well, J.E. McTeer was born in the 20s, and he was born on a plantation. And he was raised up, he was a white guy, raised up around all this Southern culture, and he'd seen a lot of supernatural things happen, and he ended up becoming the youngest sheriff in the country. At 22 years old or 23 years old, he was sheriff of Beaufort County, South Carolina. That's the low country, what they call it. It's the land of sun-dappled piney woods, cypress swamps, and black water. And things were pretty wild in those days in that part of the South. There was just lots of uncharted territory in there, and lots of things going on. And he says there was a big bunch of root doctoring going on. He said now he had no objection to any kind of people dealing with the supernatural, dealing with astral aspects, things like that. He said, but as a lawman, he found out that there were these various charlatans who were calling themselves root doctors, and they were finding people with syphilis, people with cancer, and they were selling them a root that was going to cure their cancer and charging them hundreds and hundreds of dollars for it. And this was practicing medicine out of license. He just felt like he had to put a stop to that. There were lots of root doctors in the area. There was Dr. Bug, Dr. Eagle, Dr. Snake, but the heaviest dude of all was Dr. Buzzard. Now, Dr. Buzzard had a real active practice, and you could hire Dr. Buzzard to do different things. I mean, he would sell you roots for various things. He would help if somebody felt like somebody had been hexing you, your life is going the wrong way. He could give you something that would help that. He also, if you got in trouble with the law, you could hire Dr. Buzzard, and he would come and he'd chew the root on the judge, and you'd get off. Or if you didn't get off, you'd at least get a lighter sentence than you would have got. Things were just amazing. They're out of hand. Sometimes judges would come into the courtroom and there'd be white powder sprinkled all over their the desks and things like that. And the sheriff sometimes would find powder on his desk. So he tried to put the word out to Buzzard that practicing medicine out of license was illegal. If he's going to do that, he's going to get him. And Dr. Buzzard they might have called him Buzzard, but he was sly as a fox. And he became more and more secretive, There was a story. Dr. Buzzard lived in a little town called Frogmore, South Carolina, on one of the islands. And the postmaster of Frogmore, he came, and people would send him orders for different kinds of roots and root packets. And they'd send it to him, and they'd pay him in money orders. And he went in to cash his money orders one time, and the postmaster just said, just sign right here, and we can cash them for you. He said, I ain't signing nothing. He went and tore them up, threw them in the trash. Someone went through the trash after he left. We walked out of the door, and they looked in the trash. There was like $1,500 that he'd just let go rather than get any chance of being caught. And so there was kind of this standoff going on for a while, and finally they caught a young black guy. They caught him breaking into houses, and when they checked his clothes, when they took him into custody, checked his clothes, they found a little root packet in his waistband of his pants. And not only that, and Sheriff McTeer knew everyone had their kind of trademark root packets. He knew that this was one of Dr. Buzzard's root packets. And there was all different kinds of ingredients in this little medicine bundle. But along with it, there was a little vial of yellow liquid. And he said, now the root packet, nothing illegal about that, but the vial of yellow liquids, that's medicine without a license. So they got the guy, they took the young man in, and they said, now look, if you'll testify, we know this is Dr. Buzzard, and his root's not that strong because he gave you that root to protect you, and here you are. And now if you testify against him and tell about how you got this, we'll let you off. We'll let you off easy or whatever. Yes, sir, I'll do that. And so they brought him into court, and then they had a subpoena, and they brought Dr. Buzzard into court. Dr. Buzzard came strolling into court wearing purple glasses. He was chewing. He fixed a stare on that young man, and all of a sudden that guy started swatting himself like ants were biting him all over. He flapped back on the court, fell back over, eyes rolled back, frothing at the mouth, and obviously he was no good for testimony. And the sheriff said, "All right, Buzzard, my root's as powerful as your root, and if you don't quit practicing medicine without a license, we're going to get you, and I'm going to take you down." And old Dr. Buzzard looked at the sheriff and said, "You tend to your business, I'll tend to mine." He strolled out of the courtroom. They caught it. They got him in a couple more times. Every time he was able to get away. And he sent a message to McTeer and said, "I'm going to take you down if you don't quit messing with me." And McTeer responded with, "I don't like threats. My root's just as powerful as your root." Fates intervened. Shortly after this exchange of threats, Dr. Buzzard's son ended up driving on a road late at night and went off a bridge into the canal and drowned. Well, this completely demoralized Buzzard. And one day Sheriff McTeer comes back, and there Dr. Buzzard is pulled up at his house. He presented him with 2 fine chickens and said, "Sheriff, I know I got power and you got power. And from now on, I ain't going to practice medicine without a license. I'm going to deal just in the supernatural. And you and me, we can be friends." And they did become friends. They were the 2 most powerful guys in the country, a white lawman and a black root doctor. And they kind of formed this alliance of power where Dr. Buzzard said he wasn't going to do any more black magic, just going to do good magic. And they became this sort of amazing alliance. And Dr. Buzzard taught Sheriff McTeer a whole lot of what he did. And I think it was 1955, Dr. Buzzard died. Well, now the county didn't have a root doctor. They needed a root doctor. And there was certain needs, and the sheriff realized that maybe he better just take over and try to help out. And I'm just amazed. I'm reading this story. And the thing that was sort of amazing about it is McTeer wrote this, and not in a way of self-aggrandizing or anything like that, just sort of told the story. And he says, "And now I help people any way I can." Well, my friends who'd gotten the book out of the South Carolina library said, "I think he's still alive. I think he's still down there." And so I looked up in the directory assistant, looked up Sheriff McTeer. I called and rang about 3 times, and I hear McTeer. And, Sheriff McTeer, I read your book. I think that's just amazing. Well, I'm really interested in roots and herbs and everything, and I wondered if I could come down there and talk to you. Well, I'm in my office every day from 9 o'clock till noon. I'm in semi-retirement. And right there, 214 West Street, right in Beaufort. And, well, could I come tomorrow? Anytime, before noon, I'll be there. And so I went down and went and met Sheriff McTeer, tall, angular guy in his late 70s, thick, horn-rimmed glasses. And I said, well, I'm really interested in these roots and herbs and everything like that. And I've written a book on roots, and he took that book. And he had very, very traditional office. It turned out after being a sheriff, he'd gotten into real estate and probably involved in developing some of those beautiful outer islands. And there was all these certificates, big oak desk, and all these certificates on the wall and everything, and writing pad and everything. And he looked at that book. Well, Mr. Elliott, you've done a lot of work here. Yeah, I've written a few books myself, and I know what a lot of focused energy that takes to do that. He didn't say focused energy. He said, he said, I know it's a lot of work. Getting out of character here. And so I said, well, so now, what kind of herbs do you use? He says, well, it's not so much the kind of herbs that I use. He says, but it's where I get them from. He he says, you know, like you get some plants that grow around a graveyard. And he says sometimes you take some dirt from a murderer's grave or dirt from a different kinds of graves, and I make these little packets. He had this little pile of little red flannel bags on his desk, and I make these little packets like this, and I give them to people. And he said, now somebody could come in here just any time. While, you know, people just come in. They could come in any time while you're here, and I don't mind if you want to watch what I'm doing or kind of participate in it. Just kind of go along with what I say, and you well do that. Okay, well that'd be great. And what about these roots? And what about like High John the Conqueror root? That's one of the big mysteries to a lot of us ethno-herbalists is what is High John the Conqueror? What is the botany behind this? I really wanted to figure this out. I said, you don't have any of those High John the Conqueror roots, do you? And he said, no, a lady over on Santa Catalina Island gets them for me. And he said, she's supposed to get some later this month. And I said, well, if I gave you a self-addressed stamp envelope and you got one, could you send me one? I just wanted to find out what the plant was. Well, that'd be all right. I'd be glad to do that. Well, let me go out to my car. I said, I'm going to go out and get some and get you an envelope and a stamp. And so I went out to my car, and I came back in, and there's 3 black women sitting in there. Oh, and oh, Mr. Elliott, glad you're here. Yeah. Where's that book of yours? My book? Oh, my book. Yeah. Oh, yeah. See, Mr. Elliott, he wrote this book here on roots. He lives up in the mountains. He's here helping me. And you all don't mind if he's here with us, do you? And he'd be helping me out here a little bit today. Oh, no, they didn't mind. So we went into, so well, come on, we'll go into the next room here. We went into the next room, and in the next room was a whole nother world. I mean, here's this really straight real estate office, and then we go into this other room, and there's a couple of tables, and there's all these artifacts on the table. There's a big wall. Up on the wall is this great big horseshoe crab shell, and it has painted with eyes and nose. It has all these faces with like a design on it. Up above the horseshoe crab is this dried rat. Up there, and then there's all these sort of pictures with various sort of pagan-looking forms on it, and then there's a great big cobra with rhinestone eyeballs. It has its coil over its coils, and its coils are around an ashtray. And then there's a bunch of human-shaped candles, and then there's a bunch of aerosol sprays for various occult products. And he was partially a practitioner, but partially sort of a collector. And he had showed me earlier. I kind of got a little out of sync here. He showed me earlier, and there's this old twisted up piece of human-shaped driftwood. He said, "Now this here Demondrake root." He says it's got a gold chain around its waist, and if you let that gold chain loose, its powers will get out of control. So I have it chained up here, and then this is the staff of power that Dr. Buzzard gave me before he died. And all these a little Aztec, like a tourist item from a Mexican, little Aztec sun god. I mean, a little sun Aztec calendar, and then there's a couple African things, a couple like stuffed grass dolls, and all these things. And he says, "Well, now sit down here." And he's talking to her. "Now, why'd you come here?" He says to one of the women. She said, "Well, he says, you've been here before, haven't you?" And she says, "Yeah, I have." I said, "I came in here because I have trouble with with a real sore place on my leg, and it won't heal up. And I came here, and you gave me a medicine bag, or you gave me a root packet before, and it ain't getting any better. And I don't know." He said, "Now, you've been to the doctor?" "Yes, sir, I've been a doctor, because if I can't do anything, if the doctor can do it. Now, only after you've done everything the doctor can help you, then maybe I can help you." He says, "Let me see that root bag." And so he looked at it. He says, "Look, there's a hole in that bag. How'd that hole get in there?" She said, I don't know about it. I don't know about that hole. Well, there's a hole in that bag. See, there's something wrong. We're going to fix you up here." And he took that bag over here. "Now, why are you here?" He says to the next woman. He says, "I got a drinking problem, and I just can't help. I can't help my drinking problem, and I need to do something about it." He says, all right. "Now why are you here?" And she says, "Well, my friends are coming, and I ain't been feeling so good lately, so I thought I'd come too." I can understand that. And he said, all right. So let's see now. "Now, how old are you?" She says, "The one with the drinking problem. How old are you?" She says, "I'm 43 years old. He says, well, I'm almost twice your age. You've got your whole life to live ahead of you. Now, are you gonna live it? And you have lost your confidence in yourself. If somebody put something on you, I don't know what happened, Chef, but I lost my power. And he says, well, whatever it is. Now, I only do white magic here. I don't do any black magic. I don't do any negative magic here. Anything, and the only thing that can happen, what I'm going to give you here is more powerful than anything anyone else can do to you. And if anybody tries to put anything else on you, it'll bounce off of you and go right back to them. And he said, now you all came here because you believe, right? You believe that I can help you. And they nodded their heads. He said, if you believe I can help you, I know I can help you. He says, now what you gonna, and he said, now did anybody else give you any other root packets? And they nodded their heads. He said, let me see them. And one of them reached in her purse and pulled out a little root bag. And the other one had to excuse herself. I don't know where she was keeping it, but she came back with her root bag. and he said, all right, now I bet you paid a lot of money for this, didn't you? Yes, sir. He says, well, now what I'm going to give you here is free. Don't cost you a penny, and it's more powerful than anything you can buy. And we're going to try to restore your confidence in yourself. And so then he took a chalice. Chalice looked about like this, all right. And he held this chalice. And this chalice is going to help. This has water in it. This has purifying water in it, and this is going to help you. This is going to help seal our bond for what we're going to do here today. And each woman, he took them and he held his hand right at the back of their neck, and they put their hand in the water and they wiped it on their forehead. And then he said. Let's see. Then he said, "All right, now," and he gave each of them a root packet. And said, "I want you to hold it." They held it, and then he let them held the root packet. And then he gave them one of these black human-shaped candles. Gave each of them one of them. So now I want you to point it up there above that mask at that dried rat, right? And I want you to focus your energy on there. He did say something like focus your energy. I want you to focus right up there. And then I noticed that they all held the candle up and they focused right up there. I noticed as he stepped back, his hand reached up under the counter of his little table with all the displays on it. And all of a sudden, poof, a cloud of smoke came out of the top of it. They all jumped. We all jumped, you know. All right, now I think we are ready. I think we've got our energy focused. And I'm like, oh, I'm just amazed. And so he says, all right, now I think we're ready to go on with the rest of it here. And he says, so he says, and this will tell us if we're ready to proceed. He took a piece of cardboard and he says, all right, now let me see if we're ready. He slid it over to the edge. I don't think we're ready yet. Something's not right. This is very difficult to do, but if it's right, I'll be able to do this. Now let me see if I can, something's not right, let me try again. And he slid it over to the edge. Water dripped. I guess I should. Let me make such a big mess here. And that woman with the drinking problem says, I think I know what it is, Sheriff. And she reached in her purse and she pulled out a bottle of liquor. And he said, that might be what we need here. That might have been what was holding us back here. We weren't quite ready. And then he went and he pulled it off and the water stayed in the jar upside down. And we all looked and were just amazed. Wow. A common sleight of hand trick called the hydrostatic glass. But what a way to use it to get an extra level of commitment. And he said, all right, now I think we're ready to go here. And so then he took a piece of Kleenex, tore it up, wrapped it up in there, and around their root bags. And I want you to hold this. And I want you to realize that you have a lot of power in yourself. You have a lot of power that no one else can take from you. And in this root bag is a combination of your power and my power and all the other astral powers out there. And when you have this in your hand, and you have this root bag, if anyone tries to take away your personal power in yourself, it'll go right back to them, and they won't be unable to touch you. And then he collected back the little tissue paper, and he collected the little bag. He took the tissue paper off each of their little bags. He took a little ashtray, twisted them all up, put them in the ashtray. He touched a match to it, and it went, and he says, all right. And then he took that, and he held those root bags in that extreme of smoke. And he says, now I want to imbue these with the power of the serpent god of India, the ancient Aztec god, the power of Dr. Buzzard's staff, and the powerful mandrake root, and the serpent god, the grass god from Zaire, Africa. And he went through each of the things and took them all over there, gave that back to them, gave them back their packets, and then escorted them out of his office. Well, Mr. Elliott, I guess you see how we do things here. And he said, you know, people, the Charleston Medical Center send 2 or 3 people every week to me. They get people from the outer islands. They're not responding to medical treatment. They tell me that they're telling them that they have a hex or some kind of root put on them, and my job is to break the root, and then they can respond to medical treatment. And and then after he did this, I got a little out of sync here. After he did this, he took those little packets, and there was, among all this sort of black magic paraphernalia he had there was a little porcelain music box. It had bluebirds on it. And he said, so I think we have finished. You have your power in yourself. And it played somewhere over the rainbow. Bluebirds fly. And I'm just, unbelievable. Birds fly over the rainbow. Why, oh, why can't I? I was just astounded to that. I went back several more times. And I even went and interviewed, I said, is there any doctors around that have sent people to you that I could talk to? And he had a pile of papers on his desk. Went through, here's Dr. so. And I wrote his name down. I called the office and just said, can I talk to him about root doctor? And the doctor, he made a place for me in his lunch hour. And he said, yeah, he had a woman. He was a OB gynecologist, and he said he had a woman with. He said, we're very conservative here about surgery, but she had fibroids all over, and we really needed to do surgery on her, and she wouldn't show up. He says, finally I saw her on the street, and she was looking a little out of it, and I said, do you think somebody put something on you? She said, as soon as I said that, she kind of relaxed and realized she could talk to him about it. And he said, she said, yeah, they told me I'd never wake up if I went to the operating room. He said, let's go to the sheriff. He says, I took her there, and I sat beside her. He says, you saw that stuff the sheriff does? I said, I did. He says, I could feel the difference in her after we walked out of there. She came in, she had the surgery, and it was no problem, and she did fine after that. And so I went back another time when there was a young black guy, and he was having marital problems, and he did basically the same thing and said, you got to be saying yes when you've been saying no. You got to work on yourself. And I finally went back, the last time I saw him, I went back and I said, Sheriff, I watched you work, and I saw how you start every session with, if you believe I can help you, I believe. If you believe I can help you, I can help you. What do you believe, Sheriff? He looked me right in the eye and he said, I was born on the plantation around here more than 70 years ago. He says, I've seen a whole lot of things I can't explain. He says, I don't know what I believe, but all I know is I'm helping people. That's the story of the sheriff. Well, I woke up this morning, blues all around my bed. Well, I woke up this morning, blues around my bed. So I went to eat my breakfast, there were snakes crawling through my bread.